Hello again. I have been watching with enormous interest the kind of Ukrainian refugees who are arriving in Britain and Ireland. I already knew what was going to happen, and viewers might remember that I had spoken before on this subject. To illustrate what is going on, one need only look at the thumbnail to this video or to click on the link to a piece from the Irish Independent newspaper, which features the same photograph which I used as a thumbnail here. The headline to the newspaper piece reads as follows: "Thousands more Ukrainian pupils expected to enrol in schools here after the Easter break." And it goes on to say that with about 500 refugees arriving daily, more families are turning their attention to getting their children into the education system. So we are talking here about Ukrainian child refugees, yeah? The photograph is of 4 refugee children from Ukraine, and beneath it we learn that their names are Denis Boyko, Mykola Lysenko, Evan Itumo, and Fadi Muslim. Surely Fadi Muslim is not a Ukrainian name, or at least not a common name in Ukraine. What about Evan Itumu? Isn't Itumu a Nigerian name? What has happened here is, of course, another of those bait and switch tricks which we often see when it comes to race and refugees. You know how you might see some camera or mobile telephone advertised very cheaply? Well, this is the bait. But when you try to buy it, it turns out that the shop or the website have run out of that particular model, but offer you another of similar quality, but it's far more expensive. And then they pressure you into having that one instead. This is the switch. This is precisely the method being used currently with Ukrainian refugees. We all saw those photographs of picturesque blonde women in the Ukrainian national costume of white dresses with beautiful embroidery. They had lovely fair-haired children in tow. This is the bait. Please won't somebody take those lovely Ukrainian refugees and give them a home? Once people agree to take those refugees, things change and they find they're getting something quite different. One can just imagine the hapless people going to meet the Ukrainian refugees, those poor families being driven out of their own country. They get to the airport, the plane lands and the refugees pass through customs. But wait, there must be some sort of mistake. There must be confusion somewhere, because they are presented with Yetunde Olusanya or Mustafa Islam. But wait, they cry, there's a mistake. I'm here to collect 2 Ukrainians. Yes, that's right. Olusanya and Islam are perfectly good Ukrainian names. A lot of Ukrainians, of course, are black and or Muslim. Do you think that people tricked in this way complain in private? Or are they so brainwashed by the multiculturalists that they honestly don't realise that they are taking Nigerians and Arabs instead of Ukrainians? What about the teachers in that photograph? Do you think they have noticed that half of their Ukrainian refugees aren't Ukrainian at all? By the by, you will observe that all 4 of those children are male, which seems to be a common theme, and I'm not sure why it should be. This is not, by the way, an isolated instance. I gather that a lot of the refugee children from Ukraine are similarly black and Asian boys, and I believe that quite a few gypsies are also to be found among them. At a guess, I would say that these are children from families who do not have any particular attachment to Ukraine. The families are pleased to have the opportunity to move to Britain or Ireland. Going off at a slight tangent, the whole refugee business puzzles me sometimes, especially when the people concerned are supposedly fleeing from a war. When Britain was at war between 1939 and 1945, conditions in this country were atrocious and our cities were being reduced to rubble. Tens of thousands of civilians were killed by aerial bombardment, either from bombs dropped by aeroplanes or cruise missiles or ballistic missiles. One did not hear about English refugees, though. People were not fleeing to Ireland or America to escape the war. They stayed and endured it because they loved their country so much and wanted to do something for it. The men went off into the army and fought. The majority of the refugees and asylum seekers you fetch up in this country after crossing the English Channel are men aged between 18 and 40, many of whom have fled from their countries because of war. For example, Syrians and Iraqis. These are the same types who are now running away from Ukraine after pretending to be Ukrainians. They have no loyalty to any country, whether their own or the country which gives them refuge. Can nobody see the hazard of allowing hundreds of thousands of people who have no attachment to nor loyalty towards our country coming to live here? Can the Irish not see the risk? Can nobody at all see what is going on and the horribly dangerous situation into which we are heading? Seemingly not, because there does not seem to be any let-up in the numbers of these rootless drifters being admitted to Britain and Ireland.